Paul is saying the fact that our bodies have to work together in sync. Right now, Jan Osherhouse, with having being a diabetic since she was a 14-year-old girl, her veins and arteries are a little clogged, and so because of that, the blood's not flowing as freely as what it should be flowing. But since the blood's not flowing, her foot it hasn't been flowing. Her foot has had some dying that took place, that now we're praying that the blood will flow again. That foot is part of the body, which needs the blood. I know I've said it before, and as we keep looking at these gifts, I'm going to keep saying it, that there is not one gift which is more important than the other gift. And some of you may sit back and say, wow, I don't have the gift of being up front. I don't have the gift of prophecy or the gift of exhortation. We're going to look at some of those. But you may have a gift which is more in the background. But those gifts are as important as somebody who's up front. Because we're all part of the body. And if one of us sits back and says, we don't want to use our gift because we feel like we have no gift or it's not important that we use our gift, the body suffers. The body suffers. That's why I'm really every week pushing you to do the spiritual assessment survey to find out what your gifts are. Discover what they are. So that we don't suffer, but that we grow as a body. If your Bible's open, we're going to go to verse 28. 1 Corinthians 12:28. The Apostle Paul says, in the church, God has appointed, first of all, apostles. Apostles. The word apostle simply literally means to be sent with a message. About 3 weeks we're going to look at the word missionary. That's also considered one of the gifts. Missionary also means sent with a message, but it has a different connotation. Missionary sent with a message deals more with going to cross-cultural areas. An apostle is one that is sent with a message, sent to start and oversee the development of new churches or new ministries. New churches or new ministries within the church itself. It's interesting if you turn over with me to 2 Corinthians 12, verse 12. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 12. The Apostle Paul talks about some of the credentials for being an apostle. Now, as I say, the definition is one who is sent, one who starts new churches or new ministries. But what the Apostle Paul says in Corinthians 12, verse 12 is this. And when we read this, it's going to... Some of you may say, whoa, wait a minute, that can't be me at all. And yet maybe God has called you to the gift of apostleship. Paul says, the things that mark an apostle are to do signs, to do wonders, and to do miracles. Signs, wonders, and miracles. The Apostle Paul says there are some of the things that mark who an apostle is. An apostle is one who understands that their life has to be totally enveloped, engulfed by God. And they move into a new area. I think about Adam Potgieser. Some of you know Adam. Adam is the pastor for about 5-6 years now. He's been in Lawton area with NC2, New Community Church. Adam felt the call by God to go into a church planting process. I believe possibly Adam has the gift of apostleship to do that. To be sent to start a new church, to start a new ministry. We've had Nate Bull here before. Some of you remember Nate Bull? Awesome, powerful speaker, an African-American Reformed pastor. Works down at Vanguard Ministries. Now down is in South Bend area, starting a brand new ministry down there. An apostle. I use those two examples, and some of you may sit back and say, whoa, wait a minute. God's not calling me to start a brand new church. I'm not an apostle. I'm not gonna quit my job and go through seminary and go through that whole process to start a new ministry in a new area. That's not what I'm saying. An apostle can be somebody right here and now. What is the definition of apostle? Somebody who has been sent, who starts a new church, who starts a new ministry. Is there something that God is calling you to start? Maybe it's a Bible study in your neighborhood to invite other people to come. Maybe it's a Bible study here in the midst of the congregation. You understand what I'm saying? An apostle just doesn't have to be somebody who takes their entire life, changes the course of their life, and starts a brand new church ministry. But it's somebody who says, and has been gifted by God to say, Lord, what's that new ministry you want me to start? Where I am, here. Where I am in the present. It's interesting because we're going to look at it, but in Matthew 28, the Great Commission, Jesus says, go out and make disciples, teaching them to observe all that I command. We look at the word go, and we think that's the word go. The reality is, the Greek language there is, while you are on the way. You've all heard pastors preach on that, probably, about go. You got to go out and do it. No, it's while you are on the way, make disciples. To be an apostle doesn't mean that you have to go and start a new ministry some other place, a new church, but it's a newness that God desires for you to bring up here and now. To be an apostle of God. Secondly, the Apostle Paul here says, are all prophets, are all teachers? Oh wait, I'm sorry. Verse 28. And the church appointed first of all apostles, second prophets. When we read this here in verse 28, it says, first apostles, second prophets. Some people argue Paul is doing a list. That he's saying to be an apostle is the best gift, and then to be a prophet would be the next, and then to be a teacher. Some argue that. I don't fall down in that camp, because what did we just read about the body just in the few verses earlier? Equal. Thank you, Rick. The equalness of the body. That not one gift is greater than the other gift. So I'm not for sure how Paul or why he's using the word secondly and third, but there is an equality within the gifts. So Paul says, in the church, God has appointed, first of all, apostles, those who are sent to start a new church, to start new ministries. Second, prophets. We looked at the word prophet last week, so I just want to remind you what the word means. The Old Testament idea of a prophet was somebody who foretold something. Literally, it means to speak before. To speak before an event. The Old Testament prophets would speak about events down the road that would happen. Judgment of God down the road. But it's interesting, if you read the Old Testament prophets, they're always speaking about future consequences because of present actions. Follow me with that. Future consequences because of present actions. I was sitting this past week with a wonderful young man in early 30s or so. Struggling in his life, struggling in marriage. Wants to stay married, but his wife has kicked him out because of choices he's made. She wants to get back together. So I spoke to him. Not me, but God spoke to him. You know, if you continue to do what you're doing, this is what will happen. Your present actions will have this outcome for the future. Or if you change what you're doing according to what this says, you will have a different outcome for the future. That's being a prophet. That's knowing. I'm not saying look at me. I'm saying